Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a special guest on board. His name is Chuck, and he comes from Dragonlance Nexus. He is the creator of the Untold Quests, the book that we are discussing today. Welcome, Chuck.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be on the episode here.
Yeah, I'm happy that this is actually happening.
I'm really was looking forward to it. Big fan of what you put out there. So anything I can do to help support you.
I really appreciate that. Not enough YouTube channels talk about Dragonlance. I mean, I think it's only me and Adam right now, and we need to put out the word.
Yeah, it's a pretty small group.
I loved your book, Untold Quests. Well, first of all, before we get into that, how did you join Dragonlance Nexus?
Oh boy, how many hours do we have?
Well, let's do the abbreviated
Oh,
version.
that was the abbreviated version. How many hours do we have? So I've been involved with the Nexus since roughly 2003, 2004.
Oh,
I started off kind of working on the lexicon of Wikipedia stuff, researching some articles, things like that. My passion is dwarves. And so most of the
okay.
dwarven articles you see out there on the wiki is stuff I did putting together through a lot of research and everything. I rose up, started working on the Palanthas Herald for a while, put out stories for that.
So you
Eventually,
wrote short stories.
well, not short stories, the newspaper articles for those that can remember from way back when the Nexus used to publish. It was weekly. They published 3 or 4 stories about what happened in Palanthas that week.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, so I would write 1 or 2 of those. Eventually, I started working with Trampus on the Canticle back in 2009. And that's back when the Canticle was down to just Trampus because his co-host had kind of left. And I reached out to him and I said, just like, hey, I can do this. You know, if you need someone to ramble about Dragonlance, I'm your guy. And so he took me up on it, and I did that for many years. Recently, though, moving forward here, we started looking more into the rules part of Dragonlance, and I started working with folks like John and Ed and Tim and William, and we started compiling some of these rules together, and that's how we came together with the original Tasselhoffs, because there was
Okay.
no fifth edition Dragonlance book out
Right.
at the time,
Unfortunately.
and we had all these rules on the website, but they weren't really gathered together. They weren't organized. They weren't really read through, play tested, and edited. So we spent probably a good a year doing that. Then we dropped the original tasks for free, and then I wrote a couple of adventures, Champions of Krynn, that went with so you could use them. And when the DM's Guild became available, we kind of focused our energies on putting out some of the product there, mainly to recoup the art costs.
How do you view the DM Guild? Because from my understanding, they take like 50% of the profit or something like that. And it's
Yes.
also under WotC now.
Yeah.
So it's
So I mean, the thing is, our big thing is we want to do Dragonlance, and we could do stuff and put it on the website, but we would be forced to recycle art. We'd be forced to pay for everything out of our own pocket, which it gets to be very expensive.
yeah.
A cheap cover art piece that's new is like $300.
Wow.
And it's you start
Yeah,
factoring
that's
that
not
in.
cheap.
No, and you don't want to just throw on some stock art that's 20-30 bucks. You want to kind of keep that Dragonlance feel. So we really had strived to go that way. With the DM's Guild taking half of it for the license, we kind of view that as necessary evil.
Okay.
It is what it is. I would love to make more money off of it, but then you couldn't do Dragonlance. It's the only way.
Is there a way to support you guys off of the DMs Guild? To support
Uh,
Dragonlance Nexus?
the Dragonlance Nexus does have a Patreon, which goes
Okay.
to the administration fees of just hosting the website. We don't have anything set aside personally for the publishing side.
Flip it over anyway. I'll add the Patreon to the description of this video. Other people want to join, they're more than welcome to. Support for Dragonlance is something that is lacking and obviously needs to be more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the big thing is all of us who are doing these things, we're not getting rich off of them. Most of these projects are passion projects.
Yeah, it's more for the fans because you are the
Yeah,
fans.
yeah, and we want to keep Dragonlance alive for another generation. 40 more years, it'd be great.
Well, hopefully even longer.
Oh yes, I just shoot for the 40-year mark because it's the 40th anniversary this year.
Yeah, that is correct. And it's incredible that it's been out for so long.
Yeah, but I'm still older.
You don't look that old, honestly.
Well, I'm closer to 50 than 40.
You handle yourself well. I do want to put it out there. When I was in GaryCon, I came with a friend that had nothing to do with Dragonlance. He only knows about it from me. And he joined me to your panel, and he said that it was the best panel that he went to because it was actually by fans for fans kind of thing. You weren't trying to sell a product, you weren't trying to endorse your big new book or whatever. It was more about talking about the realm, talking about the people that created it and how you guys got into it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of when we did the panel at Gary Cons. I hate going to panels and getting the infomercial. You know, them
Yeah,
trying to sell you the product. And the one thing I want to talk about is we want to talk Dragonlance. For all of us on the Nexus, we most of us had not been together ever. You know,
that
we're
was your
spread.
first time?
For a lot of us, we're spread. You know, we've met individually in pockets, but to have a because we all planned to travel together and attend that event together. So it was the first time we had the team, almost the whole team there. Tim was still in Florida because he's a school teacher,
Yeah,
so he couldn't really get away. But we had 90% of the team there, which was great because we don't get to do that. And Megan, she couldn't come either because she's a California girl, and I guess the
she
weather in
didn't want the
California
winter.
is much better than snow in Wisconsin.
It was fairly cold.
Snow and cold, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect to wake up on Friday morning to just a blanket of white. But at
Usually
least,
that it sounds like usually that late in March you might get some little bit of snow, but that was a weekend of some bad weather.
yeah, it was impressive. At least they cleaned the roads, so it wasn't an issue getting to the con.
No, because I stayed up in Elkhorn and I drove down there every day. 'Cause I went with
How
a friend.
far how
That's
far of a
like
drive is it?
15 minutes,
Oh,
10,
that's
15
better.
minutes.
That's
But
better than what we had.
where were you guys staying?
About 20-ish minutes out of the con, we found the
Yeah,
Airbnb.
I was gonna say,
Cheaper
but
that way.
yeah, I found a cheap hotel. So, but you don't have the space you do have at an Airbnb. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that is true. It worked out well. I really love the con.
I did
My
too. It was a fantastic con.
Yeah, it was my first one ever to go to, so it was an interesting experience.
Your first con ever or first Gary con?
First Gary Con.
It was also my first Gary con.
So I went to other cons, but they are like thousands of people, and you're always lost in the crowd, and it's all just impersonal. And in Gary Con, you bump into the same people that you played with the night before, and you keep on seeing the same people. It felt personal.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Gen Con. I've done some of the bigger cons through the U.S. and Gary Con's first time I sat down and a guy who was traveling solo had played a Doctor Who game in with the night before. Sat down, we had like a 45-minute conversation about the game and the things that we're into, and I was just like, wow, this is weird because at Gen Con when you play a game with somebody, you never see them again.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I was expecting.
Yep. And it got to be kind of a running joke in our group how many times we saw Ed Greenwood. Like
I have a couple pictures with him. He's the
it was
nicest person.
oh gosh, he's so great. And one of the really cool thing was so my first game I ran Champions of Krynn, I was down in one of the lower rooms of GaryCon in the middle, like at a hour in. All of a sudden, there comes walking Ed Greenwood to run a game next to me,
Oh, that's so awesome.
and I'm like at Gen Con, you never see that.
No.
Like those guys, they it seems like those guys that the bigger name folks, they run games off on the side or special events. You just don't really have that chance of sitting down, running a table, and looking over. And you're like, the guy's probably a lot better than I am. What's this all? Go join his game.
Yeah, maybe you could learn a thing or two.
I definitely could.
So, because we didn't know how the con works and what you need to sign up for Forced, when the sign up came out, we jumped onto the seminars and only then looked for games. And all the games were filled up. Like, I wanted to play Champions of Krynn, but there were no open slots because, well, I waited 10 minutes.
The big thing with Gary kind of learned, just ask. You go to a game and ask if there's a seat. A lot of times there's at least one.
If
I had people join in who just asked the day of, like, hey, do you have an open spot? And it's like, yep, first come first serve for. But I always check with the group first, like, are you guys okay with the fifth player? 'Cause,
you only run 4?
I only run 4 because I want to keep that walk up slot open. Because I've sat in games at Gen Con where it's 6 at a table,
Yeah,
and then 2 more people join, and now you got a group of 8.
and that's impossible almost to
Yeah,
play.
yeah, and that's not fun for those who spent the time signing up. I
Hmm.
think the experience is huge for that type of stuff. So I try to keep the numbers a little bit lower, and I encourage people to, just come and sign up and walk over and ask if you want to play. Unless you see 5, 6 people at the table, probably are going to have a spot.
Next time I will do that if I can't get a spot.
Yeah, yeah, because I think I'm leaning towards going back to GaryCon if all the financial things line up.
Yeah, it's not cheap. It seems cheap, but it's not, all said and done.
Well, for me, it's not so bad because it's just a car trip over.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a cost of a tank of gas to get there.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, for those folks who fly in, it's expensive.
Yeah, we had to fly in from Norfolk to Chicago, rent a car, and then drive over to Lake Geneva.
That all adds up pretty quick.
So the funny thing is even though we didn't sign up to games right away, we managed to play in a game with Luke from the DM layer, and it was a fantastic game.
And that's the crazy thing is there's just so many games there that are run by so many fantastic people.
And it
Like,
was a run. He's a big YouTuber that teaches people how to DM. And we just randomly played in his game. And it was, like I said, it was one of the best one shots I've played in.
and that's fabulous. That's fantastic.
I do want to go back to the Untold Quest if we can.
Of
How did the
course, of course.
I'm
I was
sorry?
gonna say I'm famous for my tangents when I used to do the canonical of going into left field. So
Yeah, Gary Con aside, it was fun for all of us, and maybe I'll go back next year, maybe not. We'll see how it works out. But the reason we are here is the Untold Quest. First of all, how did the idea for this module come out?
So Untold Quests is something that's been kind of brewing around my head for quite some time. Flint's Axe and Night Sword are old AD&D Second Edition adventures, and I played both growing up, but both of them never really sat well with me.
Why not?
One of the biggest problems with the Night Sword is the Night Sword and Flint's Axe is part of what they call a new era of Dragonlance. It's supposed to kind of take over after Chronicles is done. Talus had come out and it had run its course, and now they're trying to reboot it with a new era with Tales of the Lance box set. So the first adventure that comes out is a Night Sword, and to me, it just tries to cash in on the same same kind of plot storyline that we get. We get villains that are very familiar sounding names. You have the
Mm.
Crown Guard family. You get some of the tie-ins to the original companion, and there's no real story there. You're a knight. The whole adventure is on the premise that you are going to become a knight.
So
So if you
you're essentially doing your trial.
Yes, and if you don't have a character that wants to be a knight, no way to really play it.
So if you're playing a wizard, you can't really become a knight.
No, if you follow Dragonlance, kind of especially back then, AD second edition, there's class restrictions and knights are it's its own class, and
Yeah,
if your party has no knights, you're not going to pick up the module to play it.
yeah, obviously.
So it kind of failed. Flint's Axe comes out, and it takes a different um, style into it, but it assumes that you've completed the first Knight's Sword, and now you're doing
Okay.
Flint's Axe. And yes, you can run Flint's Axe as a standalone adventure, but that makes even less sense now that you have these characters that went from Solamnia over to Hillhome. Why are they here? And in
So
Hillhome, you have a lot of lip service to the Fireforge family, but it doesn't really matter.
it is nice to see characters and names that you recognize, even if you don't meet the actual character, i.e., Flint. But
Yes.
it's nice to meet his descendants or a family, greater family.
Yeah, and that's one thing when I went back to do this, is I didn't want to do a conversion. Conversion would just simply be updating the stats
Yeah.
and just releasing it as a 10-15 page document of here's the correct fifth edition stats for the adventure.
Hmm.
It still doesn't fix the problems.
Yeah, and the fact that you combined them and turned it all into one big quest line.
Yeah, because when you read a knight's sword, one of the first things they say is they line out that the knight's sword, flint's axe, and then the third part would be shield of Huma as potential third act to this one. Well, that
So they never made it.
they never made it. They dropped hints and things like that of what it possibly could be. They dropped the name of the item, but that was it.
Oh, and they never followed through with the actual module.
No, there is no part three to so literally after the first two of these came out, they shelved Dragonlance until 96, 97 when they did the Saga edition.
Okay.
It was probably based on sales. But when you come out with adventures that are so streamlined into, like I said, you need a knight to complete a knight sword. That's the whole premise of the adventure.
That's also a problem that Dragonlance had from the beginning, that you are playing, you're not choosing your own character, you're not creating it from scratch, you're choosing to play Tannis or Flint or Tesselhoff.
Yeah, 100%. Pre-generated characters I mean, that's why still to this day, on the gaming side, those characters are still exist because they're in the original modules. They are the
Yeah.
original player characters.
It is funny to see that Caramon has the drunken stage of him, that if he doesn't drink, he has minus to his stats. It
Yes,
would be interesting to play that. Terrible, but interesting.
it would be. It's quite the mechanic.
hmm And it's funny that they actually put it from the books into the modules.
Yes.
So you didn't learn how to be a game designer or anything like this. This is just your experience and hard work, right?
Yes. I mean, this is my hobby on the side. I have a full-time job. I have 3 kids. I coach. I don't know how many different youth rec sports right at this time. I just finished baseball, so all this stuff is things I do on my free time.
The fact that you
Which
have free time is impressive.
who needs sleep?
Yeah, we sleep when we die.
So it's a passion of mine because I really enjoy Dragonlance, and my kids are growing up, and they've gotten to the point now where my oldest is in high school, and
Okay.
she has sat down and said, basically, when she looks at and she plays D&D,
Oh,
she,
cool.
and she looks at the books at the old adventures and stuff like that are from Dragonlance and says they don't interest her because
And
she can't be her own character.
yeah, that's one of the biggest problems with the first modules, although it was designed that way.
Yeah, and people still love playing those characters too. Don't get me wrong. Lots of people do, but when you have you're hoping that a younger generation is going to carry the torch forward here. You also have to start realizing they want more from Dragonlance than DL 1 through 12.
Yeah, of
And
course. Also, they didn't grow up doing the first edition or second edition D&D. They grew up doing 5e like, well, mostly like I did.
yeah, and for my daughter, that's all she's ever played is 5e. I've never taken her back to second edition. I play second edition still. I play first edition.
What
I
is your
play fifth.
favorite?
I enjoy it. Fifth edition and second edition are right now are going to be my favorites.
Okay.
I enjoy mechanics in both of them, but I also enjoy the fact that fifth edition has translated so well to so many other people. It's
Mhm.
universal. I can sit down and play a game and feel like we're all on the same page versus second edition where this group had these house rules, this group had these house rules.
It's fifth edition is a lot simpler and a lot more streamlined, and that's why I guess it caught out so well.
Yeah, and it really does do well for younger kids playing too, and it gets them into the game, which is huge. And for like Dragonlance, to get someone into the game though, we gotta do stuff that'll keep them into the game. And so for
Right.
our adventures and modules and stuff, we gotta think about how do we keep people going. And yes, we have Dragons of the Shadow Queen that came out.
I tried to play it all, but I just gave up in the middle.
It's hard because there's so many mechanics in Dragons of the Shadow Queen you need to create to make a Dragonlance. Like the whole Calaman, there's a great like the political scene of Calaman is so intricate if you do it right. And then there's a big betrayal, and then all the fallout that happens that translates into the characters almost seeming to flee to the Northern Waste versus being sent there. But it
So
just
there
wasn't
are
done right.
so I'm sure there are ways to do that module better, but at least from my experience from playing it, it wasn't very enjoyable.
Well,
It,
that's 100% the thing though is I don't want to have to fix a module, especially for people who pick it up and they read through it and they're like, "Oh, this is not great." That's
and
one of the
that
driving forces behind Untold Quest is I want to create something that when people pick it up, they can run a tier 1 adventure, levels 1 through 5, complete level 5, get to level 6, and feel like, you've accomplished something, the adventure makes sense, it works from start to finish. It doesn't feel like I'm being railroaded into just one path, which
so
was my
it's a more sandbox feeling to it.
yeah. I mean, controlled sandbox. I always like to call them.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives you give the players options, but at the end of the day, they will lead them to the same conclusion.
Yeah, you just don't want to say like the only way to get to the next part is you have to find the gold key.
Yeah, the MacGuffin.
Yes,
There
because
has
I
to be other options.
I grew up playing Sierra uh, DOS games like King's Quest, Quest for Glory, games like that,
Okay.
where if you missed one thing back in 10 minutes into the game, you're now 4 hours in the game, you can't complete it.
Yeah, and you have to go back or start again.
Yeah, and so that's one thing I always think when I design adventures is I don't ever want my players to be in this track of like, oh, we missed one clue, we didn't pick it
Yeah.
up, and now either the DM has to spoon feed it to us.
Or that, or magically teleport you to the next location, or find a
Y-
solution or way around the problem.
Yes, and you're gonna run into that occasionally with some groups that just don't. Sometimes I've played in groups where we're like, oh, that was the solution. Oh, we just didn't think about it. We're tired.
Not every module, let's say I ran a playtest a while back. One of the things is we had to talk with a bunch of people, and you get information from each one of them. It was like a murder mystery kind of thing. But because we didn't talk to one of the NPCs, we missed a very vital part. So, at least my feedback after that module was maybe to give the players another option to get the same information, i.e., investigating something, finding something in the mud, or whatever, another solution to the same problem so you don't have to go one route.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of the things with Untold Quest is I try to approach everything as multiple routes as possible, including the adventure hooks into the story. Because my first thing I thought of was, what if you don't have a knight in the group? Why would they be going to this festival outside High Claris Tower? Well, they know a knight. They're friends of the family, friends with a knight. They've been invited, and then create an adventure. That first part, including a path. If you have a knight character, here's part of the knightly trials. But if you don't have them, just skip to this part. Same sequence of events happens. It's just it's a different story that's going to be told at the end.
So it's different motivations that lead to the same story, to the same
Yeah.
ending.
Yes. 100%.
I'm sure that was a hell of a lot more difficult to do because it's not leading the party by the nose and it's giving them choices.
Yeah, it's one of those. When I got to it, I went and wrote Flint's Axe. That's chapter 2. Then went back to chapter 1. Because I'm like, I'm 100% more comfortable writing about Hillhome than I am about trying to figure out the nightly system here and then trying to make it mesh back into non-knights. But
Okay.
yet, in chapter 1, one of the big things I wanted to do is present options for characters who wanted to join the knighthood to have the option to join mid-adventure in that part.
Interesting.
So it wasn't just like you had to make a decision on session 0.
So let's say you're playing a fighter or a barbarian or a ranger, and you can eventually move yourself from that into a knighthood if
Yep.
that's the path you want to take.
Yeah, because I think one of the big things, especially if the idea of this being an adventure for level 1, you're hoping to have new players who have a lot of experience with Dragonlance playing it, is maybe on level 1, that session 0, they didn't know what the knights were. they didn't understand what the knighthood is. Maybe they weren't
Hmm.
even interested in the knighthood, and now they've learned more about it because they have a chance to interact within the festival, interact with people outside the festival, go to a nightly council, see that the hearings there. Then someone might say, "Oh, I made a mistake. I want a knight character now." And back in like 3.5, you'd be like, "Well, that's too bad. You should have chose that back at level 1 because now you're
Yeah,
host."
the choices you make.
Especially those choices you make that you don't realize the repercussions to.
Yeah.
Like, don't, and that's the thing is, you have the options to join the knighthood several times in chapter 1, but you don't have to ever.
Okay.
It's not one of those like someone needs to join. It's like at some point, if you have someone a player, it provides advice to the DM. If you have a player who decides to join, they can still do it.
So you still give them avenues to become a knight. It doesn't matter if they start in that journey or not. Like
100%.
maybe
Yeah.
they. Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's very interesting. It's it's nice that you do still open. You leave things open for the player's choices, but also if they want to change their mind, they can.
Yeah, because I mean, the way how fifth edition is set up, that first two levels are kind of feeling out, and usually level 3 is when you get your you get your
Your
area of
subclass.
interest. Yeah, the whole you pick your ranger if you want to be the beastmaster or the hunter or whatever. You lock it in then. Where here, you still have chances to that first two levels to kind of play it around and still, because the way we do the knighthood, you can use Tasselhoff's knighthood of Renown, the faction,
Okay.
and join that way. Or you can pull into Tass's classes if you were a fighter. You could sub into that.
Okay, so you
So,
use your uh, homemade subclasses for the knighthood themselves.
or you can pull the ones out of fifth edition, the dragons of Shadow Queen, if that's what you prefer.
Hmm.
It will work with that too.
So
With
you
it,
are okay with using the backgrounds from Dragon of the Shadow Queen,
yep. Yep,
and
I have no issue with that if that's what people prefer. The adventure is written in a way that handles that.
good. That's incredible. It helps other people that are not really familiar with the setting get more comfortable with it before they actually commit to something big like the knighthood.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is getting people comfortable, getting people know to learn more about the setting versus, well, here's Tasselhoff's pouches. You should have read that.
Yeah, because even reading core stuff, people don't do. A-
No,
Most of my friends that play, they won't even open their character sheet before the day of the game.
I'm guilty too.
Yeah, you don't have time, you don't have the will, all of that stuff. So learning other things, it's something that you have to want to do.
Yeah, and then and then backstory and things like that. Especially if you're not familiar with the setting, it's
Yeah.
really gets hard, and you're just like, well, I grew up poor and enjoying the party.
It's also a very classic fantasy setting. You don't have dragonborns, you don't have tieflings or tabaxi or stuff like that. It's very simple with the way the world was created. Well, it's classic fantasy.
Yep.
How do you
And
tackle that?
well, one of the things I wrote in the I call chapter 0 is I give advice for the DMs to discuss with their characters beforehand what characters they're planning on running, and talk
Hmm.
about what is classic Dragonlance characters versus what they're planning on. Then working out a backstory of how they would get that character in, whether it be
Okay.
through Spelljammer, Planescape, portals. One of the cool things about Dragonlance Adventures, which I base a lot of my stuff off from, the original old Orangeback book, is
Hmm.
that book addressed travelers from other realms or other settings all the time.
Okay.
And so it's not a new concept for Dragonlance for other travelers to come to Dragonlance, and they have to deal with it. Like currently, I'm running a game where I'm running a Dragonlance game right now where one of the characters is playing a halfling.
Okay.
He stepped into our portal when he was a kid, was zapped here, and people keep asking him what type of Kender, or half gnome he is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How do people in the world of Dragonlance take him? Because he's definitely not a Kender.
No, and the group at first was very much like, this guy's playing a halfling. They don't exist because they're a little
He's
bit
just a
more.
short human.
Yeah, they're a little more hardcore classic Dragonlance people.
Yeah.
And at first they're all like, "Oh, this is not gonna work. Like, just play a Kender or play something else." And he stuck with it. And now the party, anytime an NPC brings up like, "What are you?" They'll step right to his defense immediately and be like, "He's a halfling." Well, he's half what? It's been kind of a cool thing for that. But like I said, I do in Untold Quests and provide some advice about how to tackle that, so it's not just hand waved either way.
I mean,
Um,
at the end of the day, if you're not a hard liner, you could just say that they always existed in the world in one of the islands or something like that.
or you have the gray gem.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, the
that's the
Grey
other thing.
Gem, Taladas,
Yeah, you have all sorts of different outs if you really want to go to it. There's all sorts of different things there.
always a solution for that.
Yeah, and the big thing is to me isn't so much the players want to play a non-classic race. It to me is the adventure is written in the classic style. I don't include non-classic monsters in this. Everything in here is a Dragonlance monster or found in a Dragonlance book somewhere.
So it's always the Dragonlance feeling, even though that it's more modernized.
Yeah, because I mean the one thing I hate to do is lock players out of the setting.
Yeah, make them feel unwelcome because you want to play a tabaxi or something like that.
Yeah, and there's ways to work around to get to Tabaxi. And in my adventures, are you going to run into a village full of Tabaxi?
Unless you go to the City of Cats, or whatever it was called, where the Lord of the Cats lives.
That's true. Brothers Majir.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that
yeah,
book. It was so good.
that was a solid book. Yes,
Mm. It was interesting, portraying the
and,
world a bit differently than what you expect.
and it's not the one that Margaret wrote for those people listening.
Yeah, it's completely different. How do you then go from the knighthood to Flint's axe at
So
making it consistent?
So one of the big things here is you go from Knight Sword to Flint's Axe is you had to have some sort of villain,
Yeah,
and you have to have someone pulling the strings. And that's the one thing they didn't do at all in the original writing. They had nothing tying the things together. So here the backstory is a little bit is you have this black robe mage who is a character from the original Dragonlance cards,
okay,
the
cool.
the AD&D cards.
Yeah, I have a set somewhere back there.
I've got a couple of them, but
1991, I think.
I was gonna say they came out in 91, 92, and 93. And on one of them, there's this Black Robe Mage. List a name. He's an older mage. Not much about him though, because those cards were fun to look at, but then there's like, what is this? So
They did have pretty art.
they had great, well, they had classic art there for sure, and I do love that art style. So I took the Black Robe Mage from that set, and I'm like, well, a Black Robe Mage is not going to be your main villain in a tier one adventure, though.
No, he can't.
He's not going to show up. He's not going to be the one doing the dirty work. He's going to be sending out his agents. Yeah, and so in the original Knight's Quest, there's one character there that is working for the Crown Guard family, but it doesn't make a lot of sense because the character's a thief.
Interesting.
So I took that character. I'm trying not to spoil anything here. And I took that character though, and I was like, what if we made that character the linchpin? And this Black Robe Mage decides because he's power hungry, wants to live forever, wants to become immortal, he's going to try
Don't
to
we
become a
all?
lich. And to become a lich, I was like, well, how about if we take an idea from the fifth age, the Saga Adventures, of how they used to siphon the magic items out of artifacts.
Right, to use sorcery.
So what if this Black Robe Mage kind of discovered that early that he can siphon power from them to grow his own power, and by in his theory would be make him immortal. Which again, it's a theory. It's
Well,
something he's thinking, but he needs powerful artifacts.
okay.
So he spent time researching some of the most powerful artifacts that he can get his hands on that are accessible.
So essentially, what Malastrix tried to do in the Circle to the Stars, Window to the Stars, when she tried to ascend to godhood.
It's a similar thought, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
very cool.
So this Black Robe Mage then sends out his agents to retrieve the artifacts because he's doesn't want to get his hands dirty.
Why
And
would
you
he?
exactly, and you discover the plot along the
Okay.
way.
And that's how you segue from one location to
to
another.
the next, because you learn more about what's happening through different breadcrumbs, different plot things, and it's not just it's all set up so you will find those breadcrumbs. You're not going to be playing King's Quest searching for the gold ring in the bottom of the pit for hours.
Yeah, not finding it and then moving on
Yes.
because you got frustrated and finding out that
Yeah.
you needed it.
Yeah. So that's the big thing is I tied it all together with that item. So you have three artifacts. You've got the sword, you got Flint's axe,
And
and
the
you've got the
shield.
shield of Huma, which are three very powerful magical items in Dragonlance. Now they need to be protected. And one of those items, and actually two of those items have been lost. And so you have to actually go find where they are.
So it's also a treasure hunt.
Yep, and it's kind of a race.
Yeah. So this is what I learned from the game I played with Luke and Garricon was adding a time limit makes everything so much more exciting.
Yeah, because I mean, you feel like and the thing is, you want to add that time limit, but you don't want to make it an impossible time limit where they feel like they're gonna fail.
Yeah.
You
Things
know,
will happen either way if you do the quest or not. It's
but
your
you want
choice.
but you want to give them that perception of you have to rush to the next area and not dawdle and spend weeks, months
Yeah, not
waiting to see what happens.
yeah, because at the end of the day, if they wait, they will lose.
Yeah, because that was my one of my biggest things I used to make fun of Champions of Krynn, the computer game, was there's this one scene where the main villain is you have to go up a set of stairs and it's lower level. You don't fight him; he just runs away.
Okay.
But you fight this big battle beforehand, and you see that after the battle, the text box says Martini runs up the stairs. But
Okay.
you're all beat up, so you camp, you fix your guys, you heal up. Sometimes it's been like 30 hours since the battle.
Oh wow.
Then you move one square forward, and your next text box is Martini points down at you. It's like, so he's
So
been
he
standing on
can
top of these stairs for 30 hours.
he's just sitting there and chilling.
Yeah, he's just like, "Hey, guys coming?"
So back to the story. And Flint's axe, I'm sorry. Is it the actual axe that Flint uses? That used throughout the books?
Well, so if you go back to Flint the King, those who've read that book know the what happens to it.
Unfortunately, I haven't. Not yet, at
So,
least.
so Flint the King, the axe is the legendary axe of the Brotherhood from, if you go all the way back to Legends.
Okay.
That's the axe that Caramon put with the Sword of Friendship puts up there in the contest between the dwarves and humans, where they have to work together to retrieve both weapons.
Right.
So that is actually like I said, the axe of the Brotherhood.
Okay.
In Flint the King, he finds it. His
Okay.
older brother has used it. Now he uses it. Well, it says the thing is it has a little disclaimer, a little warning label on it. It says don't use it to shed dwarf blood, though.
Interesting.
And Flint does that in the book, and the axe disappears into like a folded up piece of paper. It blows away, becomes a shadow of itself.
Okay, so now the party has to find that piece of paper.
Well,
Or act.
the party finds out that there's an axe that matches the description because the axe of the Brotherhood is just a Tharkin axe. It's a very
Yeah.
nice Tharkin axe, but it's just one of many axes that are magical. And so they discover a little bit more about the axe, and they end up actually finding two axes.
Okay.
So they have a chance to go and encounter some legendary monsters of Dragonlance.
We're not going to go into details because I don't really want to ruin this adventure to
No.
anyone that wants to play or run it. Talking about legendary Dragonlance creatures, what was your favorite to write?
For legendary Dragonlance, it has to be still. So I'm finishing up Champions of Krynn here,
Okay,
and one of my favorite things to include is spectral minions.
interesting.
There's so many different ones. Tim did a terrific job in going through and researching the different varieties that there are and
Okay, how many?
recreating them. And the spectral minions are very interesting in the fact that most of the time they're non-combat. They're actually a plot device used to help move the story. It's a character or a person that dies. Life quest is unfulfilled.
Yeah,
You can fight them, Most of the time, they're serving a purpose of trying to direct you back into telling the rest of their story so you can put them to rest.
Okay, so you're essentially trying to do like the supernatural thing of finding the undead and then fixing their problem and helping them move on.
Yeah, I think one of the best examples of that one was Jim Ward wrote Pools of Radiance. In the story, he writes, which is an old Forgotten Realms book. They go to a place called Sokol Keep, and the three main characters of the story discover all these undead clerics. They can't figure out why they're undead. Well, they finally figure out they're undead because their life missions were complete, and they're trying to tell them all these skeletons and whites aren't really trying to attack them. They're trying to tell them how to put them to rest.
And usually the natural course of things is you see skeletons and rights, you kill them
You go on the offensive. You attack them right
immediately.
away.
No questions asked.
So yeah, I kind of like using that plot element to kind of throw a twist into things and it make people not. And once again, one of the things about Dragonlance is you can't really judge a book by its cover. It's one of the themes of the setting. You
That
know,
is true.
people redeem themselves all the time. Evil redeems. There has to
Oh,
be balance.
and that's another thing that I love about Dragonlance is there has to be balance between good and evil.
Yeah,
Uh,
all the time. The scales are have to be level.
And there is always the struggle of one side wants to defeat the other without the knowledge of if you do so, if there is good without evil, there is no good, vice versa.
Yeah, and that's been one of the major problems with the King Priest story I have is this is an example of when good went too far.
Yeah, and turned into evil essentially.
Yes. But that's the problem is most people are like, well, he was just evil. And I'm like, well, no, he was really just really good, really wanted everything right, but he couldn't see that his good had become evil.
His mission was corrupted, and
Yes.
that's why he started to do stuff that were essentially evil, but he was
In his
justifying them
Yep,
as good.
in his mind it was still doing good because he was trying to make the world better.
Right? And doesn't matter how many people he has to kill to do it.
Yep.
Running forward, so the first two modules that you did, well, not module, the first two few chapters are two modules that existed.
I call them the Kender's retelling of the story though.
You adjusted it and you brought it into modern times and you improved upon them, but then you had to write a completely new chapter.
Yeah. So for the third chapter is one of the things I wrote probably back in 2005 or six. I did a write up on the Great Library of Tarsus. Those of us that know Tarsus is the city at one time rivaled Palantis
Well, she
before.
rivaled also the Ergothian Empire and much
Yep,
more.
yep. She was one of the major players in the world. And one of the things that had always bothered me was why wouldn't there be a great library or some sort of massive library down there? Especially because before the Cataclysm, the Knighthood had kicked Urgoth out of there and were protecting it.
They did have in one of the books, the knights were looking for mentions of something in there, and Tesselhoff helped them when
Yeah,
the Red Dragon army was attacking.
yep, and that's in Dragons of the High Lord, is it High Lord Skies. Yeah, I think it's High Lord Skies. Is when they touch on that one.
Mhm.
And there's a library there. So I took that. I took my original idea of this library being there from years and years ago, and I decided that libraries are kind of like museums. They like to just show off stuff. And if you're a knighthood, the Knights of Solamnia, they like to boast about how great they are about their past.
Yeah,
Uh,
having fancy suits of armors and beautiful weapons.
Yeah, you look at any of those pictures of Knights of Salami armor, you see all this intricate work. It's handed down. Sturm's armor is handed down. Everything's handed down. They're all about their tradition. They're all about um, what they believe to be the pageantry.
Right.
So if you have this new place, Tarsus, that you're trying to make more Salamnic, just like
You
any good museum or place like that, you're going to bring in artifacts that represent the power of Solamnia.
Right. You're opening a new branch. You want to show off all the fancy toys.
Yeah, and so my idea there is before the cataclysm hits, they ship down a bunch of third Dragon War stuff to be showed off to the populace, just so to show people just how strong they are, or how much they value history, how much just how great they are. Well, what happens if one of those items was a shield of Huma?
Why wouldn't it be?
Exactly, that'd be your centerpiece. That'd be your showcase piece. Why not have that shield there? And it's been lost in Tarsus since the Cataclysm.
And who knows if it's still in the city or not? Well, only
Exactly.
way to find out is if you play the module.
Yep. And the one thing we did with Tarsus is Tarsus is notorious for having very little information about the city.
I'm so surprised about that because it was a huge trading post
Hmm.
and then the sea vanished, so it kind of dwindled into nothing, but it's still a major city.
Yeah, and I researched everything. I mean, I've read everything from Murder and Murder in Tarsus to looking through all the game modules, looking at the original Chronicles, High Alert Guys. There's very little about Tarsus locations other than the Red Dragon Inn, the library, the palace.
It's
There's
so
20.
surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it talks about the 20-foot high walls several times,
Hmm.
but doesn't actually talk about what you find in there. So William and I decided we're going to create a gazetteer for Tarsus, taking what little bits and pieces we could find and making them into, well, what's Tarsus like after the War of the Lands? And so we
Uh,
we include that in this book.
so all of this, just to reel this in, the module is happening a few years after the War of the Lands, right?
Yes, we're post War of the Lands.
So it's still a very dangerous landscape. The gods have just returned. People are just learning about clerical powers.
And you still got the remnants of the dragon armies rolling around, not in just the eastern half, but they're still in the western half too.
I mean, what once they broke up, they just fractured to the wind. So you have roving bands of goblins everywhere.
100%. And that's one of the things with in Tarsus is we looked at like there would still be pockets of those guys operating in Tarsus. Yes, they wouldn't call themselves Dragon Army anymore, but you've got gangs and thugs and uh,
Mercenaries that are
yep,
trying to make a buck.
yep. So I mean, there's just a lot of different things there that you can draw into and say, well, this was an occupied city. You're
Yeah.
still gonna have that feeling of it's occupied. It's not a happy Tarsus is not a happy city for the lands.
So it's still in the module. It's still semi-occupied and kind of under the thumb of evil.
Well, it's been liberated in the module, but it's liberated in the sense that the Dragon Army dissolved, and there's no one. There's a governing body,
Right.
but it's more of a paper government
Hmm.
than actual like real government. You're gonna run into corrupt officers all over the place.
Okay,
Uh,
that's cool. So you can both, they will work against you, but you can probably pay them off to do your bidding and help you out.
yep, you got options.
That's cool. It's nice to put in also the political side of it to
Yeah,
understand how the world actually exists right now after the war. Like people went through a lot of hardship during the war.
yeah, and that's the thing is this is just post-war a little bit. So you're gonna run into you go to the city of Salanthus in Solamnia, which is the capital at one time. You go there and it's in state of rebuild.
Okay.
Your characters are feeling the city once being rebuilt. It's just recently also just been recently liberated.
Right.
And while you have a stronger government there, you have a stronger government because it's in Solamnia. They can prop it up and keep it safer. Where you
Also,
go to Hillholm, you find out Hillholm has kind of been out of the war, and it feels pretty relaxed there because they didn't have the hardships that the rest of the places had.
they weren't affected as heavily by the war itself.
No, they fought their battle 5, 6 years before the war of the
Right.
lands. The companions got together.
Right. It's interesting. So each chapter, that is essentially a module by itself feels differently from the previous one.
Yeah, and 100% because that's the idea of you leave Solamnia. The High Claris Tower is probably the most relaxed place ever because it's protected.
Yeah.
And you go to like I said, you go to Solantes and you get a little bit. It's a little bit more unprotected, but then you go
Okay.
back to Hillhome and you're like, oh, well, this is pretty mellow. And then you go to Tarsus and you're like, where do we go? Why? This is
See,
like the end of the world.
so you're jumping from one, I guess, setting to another in that sense.
Yeah, and trying just to show that Dragonlance has, post-war Lance has all these different moods in it.
How do you tackle the traveling from one location to the next?
Well, we tackle it just using the DMG's guide for travel, and then we introduce random encounters.
Okay. It's not part of the adventure, it's more the thread holding them together.
Yeah, and so the random encounters are actually some of them are kind of fun because it shows off different. Once again, the idea is for a new player or a returning player to have some ideas of things that are familiar for Dragonlance. Like one of the encounters is they run into a group of Kender.
Okay. Oh, that's
Uh,
unfortunate.
and how does the group interact with that group of Kender? Another one is they run into a group of gnomes or mercenaries driving their mercenary tank down the road, and it's 100% a gnomish Dragonlance tank that may or may not ever work.
And may implode on contact.
It may be more dangerous for the gnomes who are inside it than the player characters outside it.
I would say it's probably more dangerous to the gnomes.
But we want to include that, and then we included some classic things like the possibility of running into some iconic things like one of the random encounters is you see a stag staring at you at the night, watching you intently,
Interesting.
and you chase after it and you can't catch it. Going back to
There's
Chronicles.
yeah.
And then another one's just classic. If the DM wants to throw just a classic combat encounter, we throw some Draconians in there.
Oh, that's cool. They
Mm.
are fifth edition Draconians are tough.
Yep, and that's why they're in the. That's the one thing I didn't want to have to rely on in this book is tons of Draconians.
Well, I never encountered them in game because I don't really play in Dragonlance or in Krynn. Most of my games I play in Exandria.
Okay.
But reading through the Draconian's abilities and playing the little bit of Shadow of the Dragon Queen, every time we encountered them, the few that we did, not everybody survived.
They're tough.
They hit hard, they devastate you when they go down. Low levels
Yeah,
are not
I
great.
don't know how many times this playing Shadows of Dragon Queen I've had guys be paralyzed from
Yep.
fighting one boss, and it's like, well,
And
I
now what? At least it's temporary.
yes, at least it's temporary.
It's nice that you made the random encounters. You didn't just pull it out of the GMD.
No, I mean the only
DMG.
thing we use is travel time out of there, like
Okay.
and there's suggestions and some advice about how to get your characters to the next location. But to get
Okay,
to
that's good.
like Solantis to Home, there's multiple ways. I provide I I tell them the easiest way to get them there, to sail there, because once again, this is the characters realize they're in a race.
Yeah.
They're probably going to want to take a ship.
Quickly as they can.
Yeah, versus taking overland travel through Thorbarden, Solus, Gateway, Haven.
So that's going to take them a while.
Yeah, it's gonna take them a long while. So
Yeah, distances, even though it's only one continent, distances are very large.
exactly, and sea travel versus land slash mountain travel.
It's safer.
Yeah, and it's much quicker.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. We finish the first two modules. We look for Huma's shield in Tarsus.
Yep.
And then there is the grand finale, I presume, against the wizard.
Nope, because one of the big things once again is there's a second part to this tier two.
Okay.
So
So
if
you,
you prevent him from gaining the three artifacts, you're gonna set him back.
but not stop him completely.
No, you have a chance to fight an iconic character of Dragonlance at the end, but as the adventure ends, there is how to further the adventure, providing an outline for
DMs to keep going if Untold Quest 2 doesn't come out.
So you will make a quest 2 that brings the characters to level 10 or 15 or something like that.
That's right, because once again, if you have a mage going after wants to become a lich, even level 5 characters doesn't really seem plausible that
No. To
they're
deal
going to
with
chase
him?
them.
No.
No, they'd just be cannon fodder.
Yeah. I mean, I hope for that mage's sake, yes.
I hope so too. And so, like, the idea is we do Untold Quest 2, which would be level 6 through 10,
Okay.
and then you would discover that he is on the eastern half of the continent in some lands that are full of nightmares.
So you have to go there, deal with that, try to get to him.
Yep. And level 10 characters now taking on a higher rank mage.
It's a bit more plausible.
Yes.
How do you tackle the wizards if there are wizards or spellcasters in the group and you reach a certain level, you have to take the test?
Oh, this is always a classic Dragonlance
It's the
issue.
question. Yeah, it's a problem with the Krynn,
Yeah.
not Krynn, with Ansalon. Because if you play
So,
in Taladas, you don't have this issue.
no. So the problem with the test is subjective. There is no like, here's the test, how to run it.
Right.
I always go back to, once again, use your 2 documents that we already have. You've got one in Dragons of the Shadow Queen. You've got one in Tasselhoff's. You can pull both those in. Both of them, you're going to take the test after chapter or after level 5.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
well,
third level spells.
yep. So for me, it just made more sense. So going into Untold Quest 2 would be the opening of, if you have a mage in the party, here's how you should do the test, or an idea.
And if you're a DM that doesn't really want to run it, you could always say that between Untold Quest 1 and 2, the mage did it.
Yes.
And you could just role play that with your mage on the side so you don't have to hold the party up, so to speak.
Yeah, because nobody wants to sit in a solo session watching one guy to do everything. And I
Yeah.
know there's lots of advice about how you have them play NPCs or have them do other roles, but I'm here to play a game with my character. I don't want to, for the most part, don't want to play an NPC.
Yeah, 100%. So at least this is a good way around it.
Yeah, because here you end level 5, you come out, and now Untold Quest would be, you would get a missive to go to the Tower of Wayworth, and for a mage, once again, you can do it off screen, or you
Yeah.
can have a solo session of, all right, they're gonna go do a test.
Yeah, and honestly, for DMs, like I said, you don't really have to run it. You could just talk about it with your player and do it like a one riffing off of the other sort of thing.
Yep, exactly.
When are you guys planning on publishing the Untold Quest number 2?
I would be looking at about the same timeline as this one, so probably next spring.
Okay,
So we've got Legends, or we got Huma Before the Lance coming out with Richard Knack here.
that's awesome.
So I'm writing an adventure for that currently. I got to finish up Champions of Krynn, and then I'd go. This is the next project I'd be working on. Would be Untold Quest 2.
So you're just slam packed with projects that you need to get through.
Well, I mean, some of them are like Legends. The Huma project, it's towards the end. I probably got another 3-4 weeks of writing on that one,
Okay,
and then we'll go through editing, layout, and we're hoping to drop that at the end of September.
okay. And I guess you
Time
do play testing before you release it and all of that.
Yep, I'll run it through a couple groups and see how it plays out. And then Champions of Krynn, I'm writing parts of it, and then I've got a team writing parts of it. And we're holding that one off just a little bit because of the edition change.
Okay, so you want to see what you can adapt from the new stuff.
And just make sure it's not. So I don't want to lock anything into 5th edition, and then things are 5.5 or 6 or whatever.
At least they did start to showcase some of the stuff, so you can go through the videos that they published and see what changes they made. They didn't really make anything too drastic.
No, and if there isn't anything really drastic, we'll probably do that December, January.
Okay,
But I don't, once again, when You got money tied up in a project like that. I don't want to drop it and be like, well, I guess I missed the mark.
Yeah. You want to make it work for everything. It's not worth it if it doesn't.
No, and I want to make sure it's playable. One of the things I'm doing with that one is going through the original chapters 1 and 2
Okay.
and reformatting them and making them, I feel, stronger. I did some play testing at GaryCon with those,
Okay.
and I had some pretty good feedback. The groups really enjoyed the changes I'd made to it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll with some of that stuff and update.
Yeah. After doing some playtests myself, it is important to run it by different groups because you get different feedback from different perspectives.
Yeah, and you don't get yourself into the silo
Right.
of
Of
just
he's
hearing
not.
it's great, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's also another thing that at least the last one that I did, the DM said, be honest, let us know what we did. What did you think? And don't just tell me that I ran a good game because that doesn't help.
100%, and that's the hardest thing for players to realize sometimes is I'm okay with constructive criticism.
We all
Tell,
need it.
yeah, telling me something is great or it sucks doesn't really tell me anything.
Yeah, be specific.
Yeah, tell me parts that you really liked and why they work for you, and then tell me parts that you didn't like and why they didn't work for you.
Right. And then you can, if you agree with it, you could always change.
Or if you see a pattern too, like I've
Yeah.
run this for 3 different groups, and all 3 groups say this is a problem. Well,
Probably the problem is with you, not with them.
yeah, it's probably me not wanting to make the change. And all right,
I
I've done
do
that before.
I do want to touch another aspect of this module is the art. The art, at least the cover art, is phenomenal, and
Yeah.
also throughout the book. Who are
So
the artists? How did you find them?
so the cover is done by Matthew.
Okay,
I found the work on the Commissions Guild, or D&D Commissions, Art Commission. It's a Facebook
okay,
group, and I saw her. I saw that they had done some other art for another D&D book. And one of the things is I love classic Elmore. Like that's my
Hmm.
favorite. Parkinson. Those are my favorite artists.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I have three of his sketches at home.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, right behind me is the print of the companions here, and on another wall, I've got the women of Dragonlance. I've got
That's one that I have as well.
6 or 7 tubes I need to get in framed of
Yeah,
different
that's
different artists from Parkinson, from Jeff Easley, and from Larry Elmore. And as soon as I can find some Clyde Caldwell stuff that is reasonable, even for
yeah.
the prints reasonable. I'm not talking about original art here, just the prints. I'll add them. But I look at the books my kids are reading.
Yeah, some
Once
of
again,
the art is not great.
well, I look at some of the high schools. I have a high school kid who's her books is more of an anime style,
Okay.
and that's the one thing I looked at with this artist. She took a different approach to Dragonlance. I thought, and I like the approach. I like the fact that it's more of an anime manga style
I
cover
mean,
versus a classic. Well, all of our other covers are very classic feeling.
just the cover art alone is stunning. But if we
Yeah,
kind of flip through to a few other stuff, sorry, this is a more classic
yeah, and I think
picture, for
that's
instance.
yeah, and that's very important to include that type of art there because it draws back to Dragonlance fans. And once again, where it's positioned in the book, it's not giving you the idea that this is going to be an aerial combat book
Good, yeah.
because it's in the part where we're talking about how to use Dragonlance, how to use these things.
Okay,
And
so
what is Dragonlance?
it's more of the introductory into the world kind of thing.
Yeah, that's where this art comes from.
But then you
So,
have also the maps. Did you create your own based off of
uh,
old ones, or did you use existing art for this?
so this map comes from. I'm gonna draw a blank on his name. It's the same map that's in Tass's
Okay,
Pouches of Everything. He did the map with the new locations on it.
okay.
Oh, I'm gonna draw a blank. I was not prepared for this question.
I love cartography and
I do too.
art.
And I do a lot of my own like dungeon layout. I can do those maps, but this type of stuff is way beyond my skill.
Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the art from the new books, the new trilogy that Tracy and Margaret are doing. I'm not a big fan of the cover art, but the maps inside are
Or
phenomenal.
yeah, the maps are great inside.
I think,
I'm 100% with you.
yeah, I think they're one of the best Dragonlance maps ever made. Like, they're just done so well. Fortunately, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the cover art.
No, I'm not a big fan of the cover art either, but like I said, I'm more of a classic. I mean, I guess I can go still wiki if we want to go modern, but
Yeah, but what's the point? We're playing Dragonlance and we're reading about it. We want the
yeah,
more
I want I want I want
classic feeling.
yeah, especially when it says classic Dragonlance on the cover.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking for one more. Here we go.
Yeah, that's Elena. She did
Yeah,
Lilith there. She also did Basalt Fireforge chapter before, and this is Lilith. She's in the library, the ruined library.
this is the ruined library of Tarsus, I
Yep,
presume.
and she's in charge of archiving it and cataloging it for the Great Library of Atlantis.
Yeah, Elena's style I could recognize immediately. We chat back and forth from time to time. I really like her. Her art is also very good. It's a bit different than the cover art that you have.
Yes. And we usually use Elena for a lot of our cover art. Like my Champions of
Yeah,
Krynn book that we're putting out, it's going to have Elena as a cover. We're using one of hers. She's doing Kit and an Auroch on the cover.
her painting of Tesselhoff pickpocketing Lord Soth is phenomenal.
But yeah, I think like this piece here is one of her best pieces for detail work. Like yeah, you can see those books, and you can see the library's in ruin. It's an
You could see the
underground
books.
library.
You could see the books in the back.
Yes, I just like this is just an amazing detail piece, and
Hmm.
she is so easy to work with. Like she researches the character. Like I told her I need Lilith home. I need Lilith here, and she went. She goes, well, here's what I found for her skin tone. This is what I found for her hair color, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, what do you want her dressed in? And I'm like, you do it because
So she went a
yeah.
lot deeper than you expected her to go.
Yeah, I kind of, that's the nice thing about working with Elena is she's just so detail oriented. Like she looks at the little things and just brings them out. Like once again, cataloging those books. I mean, she could have just done a simple half that picture
Yeah,
and did a little bookcase, but she adds that extra detail and it gives you that setting that it draws you into. Now, when I picture the Library of Kristan,
this is what you
is
picture.
yeah, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this
Hmm.
dirty room. Columns have fallen down from the cataclysm. You have really no light coming in. The only light is on the top floor of where it used to be kind of the dome. Otherwise, it's all lit by candles.
Yeah, that's also that's also kind of dangerous with all of the old books around,
100%.
living on the edge. She is a phenomenal artist, and every time she posted a new picture that she did on Facebook, I immediately fall in love again.
In this book, we do have new map from Fenric McHale
Okay,
of Tarsus, Salanthus, and Hillholm. He
let's
designed.
try to find that.
I was gonna say
I'm cycling through the pages. Here we go.
nope,
Nope.
that's me. That's boring.
Well, it's a grid battle.
I was gonna say it's your typical grid. Keep going up a little more. Right there on the very top is Tarsus,
This one, yeah.
and
So, an actual map of the city of Tarsus.
with locations and things like this. And Fenric McHale does phenomenal cartography in this book. He looks at the original maps and builds them again and adds more details and ideas to them and makes them a living, breathing city. You have parts of the city here that are still in rubble. You've got
Yeah,
these
you could
parts that
see
have
this
been
over here.
yeah. So once again, if you look at the original Tarsus maps, you don't get the same feeling. You just get told most of the city's in rubble.
Yeah, that's
What is
true. You
that?
don't really get told a lot about the city itself,
No.
except for the fact that it has high walls and it's a desert city that used to be a coastal city.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's what he did here with these. He put the ships in the harbor because one of my big pet peeves is I
They
don't
talk
understand
about
why
it.
these people who after the cataclysm didn't strip those all the wood off those ships
Yeah, they would
for
have.
warmth.
Yeah, they would have.
I mean, you're right next to ice wall. You can't tell me the winters there are not cold.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you're not using the ships for sea travel anymore.
No.
Why not repurpose the wood to build new buildings or create shelter or, like you said, firewood?
Yeah, it's those are things that make me go, But yeah, I just want to highlight his map though. He's just did a wonderful job on it, and he was really great to work with on this project.
So these, I guess, squares of emptiness, are those just a part of the locations or are
Those are
these
the plazas.
okay? So
Because
these are the
like
huge
Tarsus,
plazas,
yeah, Tarsus has huge plazas because it was one time a huge city, and
right?
if you look at even the Karen Forsyth maps from the Dragonlance Atlas, she's got these empty square
Okay.
rectangle blocks in there. So,
Yeah, I never noticed that. It's been a
but
while
yeah,
since I cycled through the Atlas of Dragonlance.
well, I looked through that one quite a bit. I might need to find a second copy.
No, don't go the eBay route. I think
No,
I bought mine off of there. I bid and I bought it for like $120, and then I noticed that I could have bought it for cheaper on Amazon. Anyway, learning how to collect and find old things takes a while.
it's tough. I mean, I'm fighting to try to get all the different box sets and things from Forgotten Realms, and there's a lot of money in those. A lot more than I
Yeah,
want to spend.
that is, that is true. Unfortunately, that is true. Anyway, Chuck, I really appreciate your time, and honestly, an hour and a half is a hell of a lot more than I expected.
Oh, I enjoyed being on here. It didn't feel like an hour and a half.
Not to me. Well, I was surprised when I picked up my head and I saw the time running.
Oh, it's been a good conversation.
I am excited, hopefully, to either run this module or play in it. The low level stuff is fun. I like high level content. I like to play high level characters where you have a lot more options. So I'm hoping to see Untold Quest come out sooner than later.
Yeah, the Untold Quest 2. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start writing it here. I got an outline. I'm gonna start actually sitting down writing it in October when my real life slows down a bit, and hopefully get it written by Christmas, and then go through the layout and editing process next.
Well, I can't wait to see that. Thank you, Chuck. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We will definitely chat again when your next module comes out. The Warriors of Krynn, right?
So we'll have Legend of Huma first, so
Okay.
we can
So
definitely chat about that, and I could possibly see about getting Richard on with us.
that'd be awesome. I already talked with him once about a lot of his Fifth Age books. I really like the Fifth Age. I know that's controversial, but the way the world changed makes it a lot more interesting in my eyes.
Well,
Oh.
and I'm not, I steal ideas from the Fifth Age, so I can't say too much against it.
Elves in exile, minotaurs everywhere, ogres locked in their own kingdom. I
It's
don't know. It's
fascinating.
interesting times.
It's a fascinating world of adventure, and
Definitely. Well, I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope everybody enjoyed this late conversation that me and Chuck had. So we will see you guys in the next one.